Hello everyone, and welcome to our editorial guest. On Thursday, January 18, the 2024 census begins. Don't worry, if you're concerned, you'll be notified or you've been notified by your local council. This annual census is celebrating its 20th anniversary. It's a civil act, compulsory and free of charge. And to talk about it, we're here with Florian Hatier, head of the Bordeaux Statistics Department at INSEE. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us. As I said in my introduction, the 2024 census starts the day after tomorrow, but of course there's no need to worry, we'll probably be notified. We already know that we're chosen according to the number of inhabitants in the commune, so that's how the census works.
In fact, every year in large communes, a census is carried out on a proportion of dwellings, generally around 8%. So there's a census every year in large communes. In small communes, on the other hand, a census is taken once every 5 years for all the inhabitants of the commune.
So who's concerned in the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region?
So in the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region, we're talking about 917 communes, i.e. all the large communes in the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region, nearly 75, including 8% of the housing in these large communes and around 850 small communes.
Very well. As we were saying earlier, the town hall warns or will warn us, and then we will receive census takers who will come to our homes.
Indeed, the census enumerators will be dropping information leaflets in letterboxes so that people can respond by internet from the launch on Thursday, January 18th. For collective addresses, they will go to households with an official tricolor enumerator's card.
So we know that it's quite problematic sometimes with people who show up saying they're census takers and don't have a card. We know that you need a card if you're going to be at someone's door.
In fact, you have to have been warned, and the person has to show an official card with the municipal bylaw behind it.
Then everything happens on the internet. So we have personal one-time use codes. So I have examples of what we're going to fill in. Is this a fairly new practice for you on the internet, or have you been using it for many years already?
So it's innovative, but the internet questionnaire has been around since 2014 and 2015, and this year it's getting a facelift with a revised form and the possibility of answering on the internet via smartphones and tablets, which wasn't possible before.
So that's the big news. To celebrate 20 years, we can finally answer directly on a cell phone.
Indeed, to go beyond the 2/3 response rate on the internet and to mobilize younger people in particular.
Yes, it's simpler. So what's the point of all these censuses? We said it was free, but also civic.
It's civic, anonymous, confidential, and compulsory. There are two main objectives: to count the population, so determine the official population figures for each commune, and to provide a detailed socio-demographic profile of the population and housing.
And it's also important to know, for example, for vacant housing or for the homeless, for students who change accommodation depending on the city, is it also intended for certain people?
Indeed, this census is intended for all individual populations, different communities, homeless people, and in fact it enables us to characterize housing types such as second homes, main residences, and also vacant dwellings, of course.
So you can obtain statistics that you can then use at INSEE.
Absolutely, for useful purposes. It's a very important source of data, census data, and it's used for a number of studies, including the study on vacant dwellings that has been published to date.
We'll come back to this at the end of the interview. You said it was compulsory, but what does that mean? What do I risk if I don't fill in my form on the internet?
It's compulsory because it's very important for local authorities. There are regulations, and their budget depends on the legal population counted by INSEE. It's true that we risk a fine, but with education we don't need to go that far, of course.
So we were saying 20 years evolutions, so now on smartphones, but also evolutions on the answers to questionnaires on these dwellings. Now we can say in these means of transport, the bicycle, we can specify that we are a blended family. Do you try to keep up with changes in society in your questionnaires?
It's true that social trends are evolving, and this is taken into account in the population census. Through changes in practices, including teleworking, which has also been a change in practice, and also in relation to European statistical texts, which also aim to overhaul the framework regulations on data and practices.
And then you can always fill in the little other box, which expresses another form so that you can improve the questionnaires in other years.
Exactly.
That I saw on the link.
Even for housing types.
Even for housing types. So this morning you were saying that you presented the Nouvelle-Aquitaine census results, and in particular you raised the problem of vacant dwellings in Nouvelle-Aquitaine. What is this problem?
Well, not necessarily a problem since it's a national study coordinated by INSEE at national level and broken down by regional department. There are roughly 8.1% of vacant dwellings in France as a whole. In the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region, we're on a par with the average, just over 8.4%. There are disparities, however. What we notice is that beyond the 8.4%, there are territorial disparities. For example, Gironde is at 6% and Creuse at 15%.
We know that there are more inhabitants in Gironde than in Creuse. The idea is to have precise figures that will also enable us to budget, perhaps for the departments or regions with which you work.
In fact, it allows us to objectivize information that we may know, but also to put figures behind it and to see and confirm the disparities in a large region between the coastal part, the very urban part more to the west, and the rural part to the east.
So you work in Bordeaux. Are you in touch with other people in Nouvelle-Aquitaine? What do you do? How do you coordinate?
The head office is in Poitiers, the director is in Poitiers. We're spread over 3 sites. The research department is in Bordeaux because of the link with the regional prefecture, and the 3 statistical departments with a network of X regions are spread over the 3 sites, so the 3 X regions to cover the whole territory. In Bordeaux, we are responsible for X Aquitaine, X Poitou-Charentes for Poitiers, and X Limousin for Limoges.
And for all our services, you can consult the internet to find out if you're in one of the towns listed. So don't hesitate to consult your site.
Exactly.
Would you like to call up the link to the site?
On www.l'recensement at moi, at the bottom of the page, you can enter the name of your commune and see whether or not you've been enumerated this year.
It can be very useful.
Absolutely.
Many thanks to Florian Hatier, head of INSEE's Bordeaux Statistics Department, for all this information. Stay with us as the news continues on TV7.